Hello, everyone, wherever in the world you are. We are here at Studio B at Beach Street Yacht Club in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Delighted to have you with us for our show number 835. My co-host, Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, Julia Vatican, as usual, is here. I trust you're well.
I am. And actually, it's almost spring-like here today.
Well, almost. There's Mark Holland is on in the chat saying, chilliness and cloudiness have forsaken the Boston area. Brr.
Ooh.
Well, it's nice here, as Julia said. Welcome to all of you for today's show. This is Tuesday, the 20th of May. Delighted to have you all with us. And we do this every Tuesday and Friday at 1300 Pacific. And do we have a show for you today?
Yay.
But David James is throwing bon mots your way.
Oh, good.
Pretty blouse, he says, Julia.
Oh, thank you, David.
He's chatting you up, Julia.
Oh, yes.
Don Lunabos is up in Sonoma. Gordon Smith said, good evening, all. In the grand introduction, you know what the vert declare is? Julia? Vert declare. Green, you speak French.
Well,
here, I'm going to give you a demonstration.
Words from Claire. Words from Claire.
No, vert. Green. We decided in a test the other day that our new teleprompter would be green. We tested red, blue, orange, and it was the near unanimous consent that we would use. See that? We have a teleprompter now here. Mm-hmm. I got to clear that teleprompter.
Yeah,
but I have on this screen now.
Yeah.
I can do a teleprompter, so instead of pointing up at the old slide screen like I used to do on camera 4.
Oh, going mechanical.
We are now with a, look at this.
A proper.
A proper, and it can be elliptical. It can be a line. If we want it to be a line, we can, put a little mustache on somebody. Well, that's a line. That's I look like Adolf.
The electric Adolf.
Or we can have a... There is a pen. Look at that. That's not as nice as the ellipse.
No.
Huh?
No.
I like the ellipse. Gordon Smith said the ellipse looks more professional.
It does.
So we've stuck with that, and that is our new introduction. I'll forget to turn it off probably. Welcome to the show. Welcome to our show number 835. Delighted to have you with us. Today's show, besides talking about techno nerdy things like our new teleprompter, which was free software, by the way.
Was it?
Happy Tuesday and happy World Don't Be a Buzzkill Day, Julia.
Oh.
Any idea what that's all about?
Buzzkills.
B. See how the B is spelled?
Oh, B buzzkill.
There was a method to that madness. So we're going to talk about that tall ship tragedy in New York City on Saturday evening. Apparently they were stuck in reverse, or so I hear reliably from a Fozy.
That's news to me.
Yeah, well, we've got, as usual, we've got the inside scoop here. Tomorrow's news today, Julia.
Oh.
What else? Coaching Corner, as usual, John Emmett has an interesting and provocative piece today about promoting grassroots sailing. The Trey Golfi Race Week is wrapping up in a couple days. Maxis and more, and a Bravo Zulu to Belamente's Hap Fouth, who won a race over the weekend and turned 80.
Perfect.
Great for him.
Yeah.
Pirelli is back with Luna Rossa, and the French are searching for funding now that the event is going to be in Naples. That's our AC38 Cup date. We'll get to that. Alistair Murray has an awesome Aussie anecdote, and a little different than usual. He's talking about his Aussie non-accent. Aussie non-accent.
Right. I heard just a touch of that.
Well, and when we were getting the show put together here finalized in the last hour, we've got a wrap from Qingdao where the ILCA 6 and 7 Worlds completed over the weekend, and lastly, of course, Formula Kite European Championships have wrapped in Turkey. Nice video. Likewise, we've got Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, our fantastic Fozy, and more, as usual. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Who else is in the comments? Ed Worley saying good afternoon. He's up here in NorCal these days. Pedro Foiling Sailor, where it's early in Sydney, 0606. He's out riding his bike, listening in one earpiece, going to Balmoral. Nice.
Oh, good.
Alistair Murray, we said we got an AAAA from him. It's chilly in Melbourne. Well, it's their autumn now, nearly their winter. Saying hello. And he's also likewise off for a bike ride. He'll catch us in replay. Chris Exley saying hello from gloomy Salem, Mass, up there in north of Boston. Tier de Jong in SoCal. Pedro Foiling Sailor. Okay, back and forth there. Mark Holland, speaking of people north of Boston, now you can stop using whiteout on the screen.
Nice comment. Yeah.
Julia, I like it. I like my little,
it's
you
good.
know, if you want, and it's so easy. I have a whole screen dedicated to it, and we can go up there and say, there's the Beach Street Yacht Club Burgee.
Yes.
And the other day when we were talking about the cup, and we wanted to say, well, you know, the original cup was right here down to that first major base. And then that base is the 1958 base. And then this was the one added more recently. That's when we had, of course, Mark Holland on the show with his super compendium.
Yes.
Oh, I like it. I'm a kid in a candy store, Julia.
Oh, you are?
My latest.
And I'd be very disappointed if there wasn't something new every time.
Well, you know,
and you'd inevitably do it.
I don't want you to think I spend my weekends sleeping. And we did do a test. I want to thank the FOSI who helped us with the test the other day, because I just go on random at a random time, and before you know it, we got half a dozen people on helping.
Right.
What do you think of this color? What do you think of that color? And we that's why Vert Declare, we decided that the green.
Yeah.
She was the one who said, "Oh, that bright green, that kind of international green." Fluorescent green is the way to go. So that's what we've done. Hope you like it. Tell us in the comments. If you don't, you should put 2 ellipses around your glasses, Tom. It's scorching in Miami, Fritz Mueller is saying. Julia, we can even circle the comments. There's Ted Ryman.
Oh, look at that.
We can circle anything, whatever is going out live, not just the slides. It used to be I could only point to the slides up there on this big monitor. And now I can actually watch other things on the monitor besides the slides. So it is cool.
And I like the fact that you can watch all the 11 scenes at once.
Well, I do that anyway because I have to switch between them. Now, look at that. Jody Shields is in Switzerland.
Yeah.
He's moving around Europe with his wife. He thinks he's found his favorite place in the world. You see that?
Really? I know I don't.
I love Switzerland, too. I mean, who doesn't? There's Peter Taylor, speaking of New York City and that. I wonder if he was down there with his wife, Sandy, watching that thing the other night when that ship docked out. Sad occasion. We'll get to that in a sec. Any other comments? I want a picture of Jody halfway up the Eiger with his face next to the glass at the observation stop on the train. Remarkable. Yes, it is. Emmett wanted yellow, Julia. He wanted this color, and he says he was outvoted. There was the color he wanted.
Yeah.
And that's okay, too.
It is.
But it's like green screens. Greg Norman likes the green. The yellow, there's a lot of yellow in a given image, or yellow-ish. So the color that rarely shows up in images is green, which is
chartreuse.
Another reason why we ended up on
that's a good idea.
Selecting the green. And hence, green screens, when you're doing a fake background, I mean, we could have behind you a green screen and we could project Paris and the Eiffel Tower and a view, instead of looking at those nice images on the door back there and a painting from Jonathan Frank behind you. But that's why green screens are green, because there's so little green in most images, most shots, most everything else. There's Donna Walker. We haven't seen the Walker clan on in North Texas. And lots and lots of other folks on. Joe Holtzman up in Estes Park. And, Jody Shields is having a limoncello. That's not exactly how you spell it, Jody, but that's okay. And Blake Middleton's up in rainy Minneapolis. Welcome to you, sir, one of our regular contributors to this show via Patreon. And Clark Chapin, our super FOSI from a chilly Plymouth, Michigan, not too far from where I was hatched and grew up. Let's carry on here, shall we, Julia? What day is today?
Well,
what are we celebrating?
I see the bees.
That's right. Today, believe it or not, is World Bee Day. Support bee conservation by donating or purchasing from companies that work to save these crucial members of the ecosystem.
And they are.
And they are. Or start your own beehive. The United Nations designated World Bee Day to raise awareness of the importance of bees. Bees are under continuous threat from human activity, which includes the introduction of invasive insects, pesticides, land use change, and monocropping. I thought that was monocropping. Sorry. Monocropping practices, which have continuously been destroying bee colonies over time. Well, okay. That's why we have a World Bee Day. It helps to educate people about the importance of bees and yada, yada, yada. So,
and it's incredible what they do.
It is, but they will outlast all of us on this planet. They will adapt more quickly. They, the queen and her bee colonies and all this stuff are astonishing. And then we get killer bees every now and then, Julia.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Do we have killer bees here in the backyard, in the garden at the Beach Street Yacht Club?
No.
I should hope not.
No.
Yarvahe, World Bee Day. Huh? Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so much fun to use my telestrator, Julia.
How did you ever do without it?
And Gordon Smith is saying, well, I'll be darned. Yeah, okay. That's kind of corny, Gordon. But that's, Gordon's getting corny like me. He's so erudite and so intellectual normally.
I know.
Our resident progressive here in the comments.
Yes.
I got to see, I've written to the guy that did the software. There's a famously cool guy who does this software. He lives in the Netherlands. Actually, I don't know if he's in Netherlands or he may be in Denmark, Gordon, a guy called Exeldro, Exeldro, and he's a famously cool software, guy, coder, and he does these little additions to our broadcast software called OBS, free of charge. And I have donated a few bucks to him because it's free software ostensibly, but it's fabulous.
Yes.
Cool stuff. And some other things we use, like, let's see what this is called a Move Transition. That's software it's an add-on that he developed for use in this broadcast software. Why am I nerding out here? Let's get on with the show. We are also celebrating all of you who are contributors to this show, whether by content or by dollars or even the odd booze, Julia. Bottle of booze. We have some booze coming this afternoon. I wonder from whom. Thank you to all of you who do contribute via patreon.com or send us a check or otherwise. We sure appreciate your contributions and support. Keeps us and our studio on the air, Julia, and our camera that I used to use to focus up here on the comments on the slide so that I could point to them is now a sky cam. Here up high in the studio, Julia, and that allows me to focus on various things here in the studio we might not otherwise see, including a sky cam shot of you.
Oh, no.
Sure.
Yes.
Why not?
There it is.
You got to be careful where your hands are when we have that shot of you. Okay.
All right.
Yet snarky yet respectful comment. Did I tell you that Amsterdam wasn't really friendly to me? What happened, Jody? Tell us in the comments. I'm sorry to hear that. I love Amsterdam. I've had a lot of fun there over the years. Julia, we have some FOSI focus.
Oh, good.
On several FOSI. So FOSI, what's the plural of focus? FOSI? F-O-C-I? FOSI focuses today. Be careful how you say that.
Yes.
Cool people, friends of Sailing Illustrated, we like to do at the top of the show. And this first has to do with the tragedy Saturday night where this boat, and I had to learn the pronunciation of this boat, Q Autumak. Q Autumak. And they say the accents on the second syllable, Q Autumak, but there's an accent on
Q Autumak.
Q-Automac, but there's an accent on the E, so I think those two syllables are pronounced more or less the same. Q-Automac. Gordon Smith wants to know if that sky shot, Julia View, is a cleavage shot.
I don't
Julia,
know.
Gordon Smith.
Could probably be rearranged.
But let's be serious here just for a sec, because this was a real tragedy. The name Cuauhtémoc, which means descending eagle in Nahuatl. It's the name, and that's, of course, the Aztec language, is the name of the last ruler of the Aztec Empire. It only lasted for a couple of years because Cortez showed up and basically took them all apart. And they were in Tenochtitlan, which is, of course, modern-day Mexico City, and it can also be interpreted, that name, as setting sun, by extension referring to the eagle's descent. The name is composed of, well, a word meaning eagle and another meaning to lower or descend. There's a statue to this gentleman, the last leader of the Aztecs, in Mexico City. Also one in Rio, I learned earlier today. But this was a tragedy after the ship, the tall ship, it's a training ship from Mexico, struck, as I'm sure you've all seen it on the news, struck the Brooklyn Bridge. They had, as these ships all do, you know, Joe, we've all seen it hundreds of, well, dozens of times. I've seen it live all over the world. And the tall ships come in and the cadets are up in the rigging. Right. And it's on the yardarms, and they're all lit up, and they were leaving at 8:30 at night at high tide. So the tide was relatively slack. People thought, oh, there's a big current in the East River. Yeah. And they must have, lost their engine and gone into the bridge on the current. Not true, as it turns out. Wow. And there was a tug there, as Yar Vahe is saying. There was indeed a tug there, but a couple of the cadets who were up there fell to their death, just tragically, sadly, and 20-something were injured. And this was Saturday, that tall ship. I'm not going to try to pronounce that again. But it's there because they are doing a trip to New York City in preparation for...
A big long trip.
Well, they're headed from... They were docking out to go to Iceland, as it turns out. Yeah. But they're there in preparation for next summer's 250th anniversary of the United States, 1776 to 2026. And a lot of tall ships are coming, and there will be celebrations
I'd love that.
Up and down the East Coast, and they were there as a courtesy visit and preparing for that. Here is one of two awful videos. It really did capture not only New York City, but it captured the world. Here's another video from the other angle.
Holy crap.
Both on the Brooklyn side.
What is going on?
And you can see the tug coming up alongside here on what is the starboard side of the ship here in a moment. In fact, maybe it's out of the sea shot already to the right.
The bridge is shaking out there.
There wasn't much current, Alan Long. They docked out at high tide, so it was pretty much slack tide. And they had assistance from what I'm reading this morning in the preliminary report coming out of New York City. Our National Transportation Safety Board officials are there. And they docked out, with the assistance of a tug. And then the tug apparently was cast off. But they were, as one of you said Joe Cool just said, they were stuck in reverse, as it turns out.
Yeah, that I didn't hear till this morning.
Well, I heard it a couple days ago because of a FOSI. Now, here is obviously a map of the situation. Pier 17 is South Street Seaport, as Peter Taylor will tell you. That is looking northwest. At the top of that slide is north. Ooh, I can use my telestrator. Up here is the northwest. And this is South Street Seaport. And they docked out from there, and they were going to go out and back off, I guess. And then they were going to go down the East River and out to the ocean and around to Iceland. That was
because I was wondering what they were doing.
That was the idea.
Yeah.
But as they docked out, as they backed off, you could see them.
Yeah.
They backed off, and then all those two videos, one was taken from here and the other was taken from here. And you saw them come underneath the bridge, and they ended up, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, those of you, Peter Taylor and otherwise, I think they ended up here in Brooklyn. That's where the boat is. But tragedy, obviously, when the rigs, which are much taller than the bridges, it was astonishing to me nothing happened to the bridge, in fact. It was pretty amazing. Now, stuck reverse gear, I spoke with one of the Navy officers on board. That came from FOSI yesterday. So we were hearing before the reports this morning that, in fact, and this from a highly reliable FOSI, that they had, in fact, were stuck in reverse. It wasn't the current as much. Well, there was maybe a touch of current, but not much. It was that the engines, apparently, they were in reverse and they couldn't go back forward. So, as I said, tragedy. Now, this is rumor control. I posted this on my Facebook page over the weekend. And no, I was not invited to a luncheon on the ship on Wednesday, but another FOSI was. And that FOSI passed along this invitation. The FOSI was not able to get to that luncheon, sadly, but you know that's what these ships do.
Right.
And they're on a
PR
and a nice diplomatic mission really for the country.
Right.
And we've seen these ships all over. We had a big thing in Newport, Rhode Island when we were living there in the 80s. A lot of tall ships, and it's fantastic. They're majestic, and they get lots of crowd appeal because they're big and you can see them from all over.
Yeah.
Clay Embley's saying that he's, runs tugs and runs ferry boats in Kentucky. It appears as if the propulsion was operating astern. Indeed. Yeah, exactly why you do not come in hot or out of a marina, Joe Cool is saying. Ted Ryman said he didn't realize until now that there were people up in the rigging, up in the mast. I only saw it on the small screen of my phone. Very sad. Yeah, and the wake is, Steve Atkins, I think Commodore Atkins is right. You can see the wake. It's obvious. They were hard astern, and apparently, well, Ed Worley, they didn't have time, apparently. They were quite close to the bridge. They didn't have time. They didn't try to shut the power plant. Now, maybe they did. They probably did try to shut it down. And
it takes a long time to turn those babies.
Well, I mean, power, do anything. Do anything. And people are saying, why didn't they drop their anchor? Well, when the ship's hard astern, it's going to just drag the anchor, I'm sure. So it wasn't, again, the current in the river, which is what a lot of people suspected at the outset. So scary situation, sad situation, and it was a horrifying to see all those sailors dangling from the yardarms. And Chris Exley, in fact, is probably lucky there weren't more serious. Apparently, there are a number that were seriously hurt, 2 or 3 that are still in quite bad shape, but probably surprising there weren't more deaths given that situation. But they are up there in, well, what do I want? They're up there in, they got harnesses. That's the word I was looking for, and they're attached onto the rigging. But you're not going to get down anytime soon. But apparently you also could release your harness. They did have the ability to undo their harnesses, and maybe a couple of them did undo their harnesses. They were up high enough that they saw the bridge coming at them, and they said, I don't really...
See you later. Yeah.
So it is so tragic, Scott Davis is saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Horrifying. But no, I was not invited to the luncheon, but a FOSI was. And there's a lot of inside information where I'm not going to go into here, because I'm not sure about it, but I'm pretty sure the boat was in reverse based on this report yesterday. And in fact, it's now been confirmed this morning. Yeah, there's Commodore Harrington, Vice Commodore Claire Harrington. Reportedly, the whole episode took only 45 seconds. Yeah, not a lot of time to do too much. I think that's a really good point, Claire. Kimball Livingston, I've been up on the U.S. Coast Guard's Eagle. He's been up in the rigging, apparently, and it's a long way down. That's Staff Commodore Kimball Livingston here, past Commodore of our club, Julia.
Yes.
The St. Francis Yacht Club, esteemed past Commodore, one of our best Commodores in the modern history of our club, if I may say so. Kimball, welcome. Let's move on to some other happier FOSI news. This is the Trey Golfy Sailing Week. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone. Not only this, it's really a 2-week event. It's going on since the 7th of May, and it's called the Trey. I had to look this up. Trey Golfi Sailing Week. Andrew McIrvin probably knew this. Several others of you, no doubt, as well. Specifically, the Regatta di Tre Golfi in Italian takes place across 3 gulfs: the Gulf of Naples, the Gulf of Gaeta, and the Gulf of Salerno. Gaeta is north of Naples, Salerno south of Naples. The regatta route passes through these 3 gulfs, surrounding iconic islands like, now do you know how to pronounce that word, Julia?
Salerno?
No, Ischia. Last one. Ischia, correct. Ischia, Ponza, Capri, and Lagaii.
Oh, Capri.
So, yeah, Capri. So that's where this regatta has been taking place, and it's actually encompasses not only the 70th annual regatta, but it's some distance racing, some shoreside racing, but they've encompassed the 2025 IMA, which is why Andrew McIrvin was there, Secretary General, and Superfosi. He's Secretary General of the IMA Maxi Association. He was there for their European Championship. Also, it was the ORC Mediterranean Championship and also the Tre Golfi Multi-Hull Trophy. All were going on. The fleet includes 30 yachts from France, Germany, Italy, 6 countries, Switzerland, and the Czech Republic, the United Kingdom as well. Among the standout entries, I won't read through all these boats, but you see Mascalzoni. We were talking about Mascalzoni on the show on Friday, and Vincenzo Onorato's boat, he is there, the Far 40 that he owns, and others, including Hap Fouth, that we're going to talk about in a sec. There is a map of those 3 gulfs, and again, I use my new favorite tool up here in Oops, got to get to back, Julia. Got to get back to the, there you go. Gordon Smith will approve of that. In the Gulf of Gaeta, that's up there off of Formia and Terracina. And then down here, of course, is the Gulf of Naples. And then further south off Salerno is indeed the Gulf of Salerno, all in the Tyrrhenian Sea. And here's a video.
Hi guys, it's Shima here. It's
from the Maxis
European Maxi Championship. This is how we prepare the day.
Was it?
You know what I say, it's like, you know, in a healthy body is a healthy mind. So in order to make good decisions, I have to be at a proper fitness level and the mental level.
How much care do you take about your diet when you're on these kind of races?
As much as I can. I eat a lot, but good, healthy. I'm full. I don't think about food. I think about life. I'm present. No, for me, this is it.
What do we have? What's the secret? Lemons?
Lemons.
I see, yeah.
Alkalize the body a bit.
Exactly.
Stuff, huh?
First thing in the morning.
Good to see you.
How you doing?
Obviously, there are different models that we have to take into account regarding the breeze, because it affects us in terms of which sails we're going to use and how we're going to set up the boat and the crew for this race. A lot of important decisions to make, because we are a bit restricted with the rules. We can't take all the sails we want. It's a final call for the sail call, so we are still haven't docked off. The rule is you can make sail changes until you docked off. Checking all the systems, like the kite drop system, if it all works, if hydraulics works, if the winches are working. On the way out, we have a briefing for the day. What are the new things, what's happening next an hour or 2 hours. We hoist all the sail, we do a couple of tacks, we check the race course, we check the breeze, make the fine tuning of the rig. We do 1 practice start, and then we rest a bit, we eat, we drink, and then 5, 4, 1, gun, and we are off we go.
So this video is from North Sails, and I'm not even sure some of you will know what the name of that Maxi is. And I don't know Simi. S-I-M-E, I don't know who it is, but I just thought it was a great video. Thank you, North Sails, for that. I thought it was an interesting explanation of what a crew goes. It's just like an America's Cup team docking out for a race. We're quite similar. And I thought it would give you all and give us another view of Naples and the sailing conditions in May, since the Cup looks like it's going to be in May, June, maybe July, but we shall see.
Lovely.
In Naples. Thank you, North Sails, for that. And while we're on that regatta, we've got a Bravo Zulu. It is a nice video, isn't it, Ed Worley?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's staying in the chat. Well done in praise of performance, because in the Maxis, a friend of ours and a friend of several of yours, including and especially Vice Commodore Harrington, Bellamente collects the Maxi class honors in the regatta of the 3 Gulfs, and they had a terrific long distance race. They didn't win it. They weren't first to finish, but they did win it on corrected time. And that, of course, is Hap Fouth, who was one of the big backers, probably will continue to be, if New York Yacht Club does an America's Cup team again, enters American Magic, and I hope they do. We'll see. But Hap Fouth has been a big backer of that team, longtime New York Yacht Club member, and, of course, the owner of Bellamente. They had an exceptional race. They were third home, just 6 minutes, 23 seconds astern of Magic Carpet E, but they had managed to stay up with the leaders, but had lost out south of Capri, allowing Peter Harrison's Jolt to overhaul them. However, he calmed off the Amalfi Coast. Bellamente had nosed into breeze first and was away. So said finishing third overall, but on corrected time, they won that race. So Bravo Zulu to them, to Hap Fouth. There's Hap on the wheel. And on the day that they won that race, I learned from Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin that Bellamente won the offshore race for Hap Fouth on his 80th birthday.
Oh, yes, we saw that, yeah.
And that was, I believe, Saturday. It was over the weekend. And thank you, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, and congratulations, Hap Fouth, on that.
Absolutely.
Terrific stuff. Also, during this regatta, this was the winner of first to finish, I believe, Galatea, which is an American's boat, David Leushen's boat. It's a 100-footer. And he is from the USA, lives out in, I believe, in Wyoming, has a ranch and has been skiing and sailing and other, but he's a Wall Street guy. And you see the guy, forgive me.
Yes.
See this guy? I had to send this picture to Andrew McIrvin and said, is that you, Andrew? It doesn't really look like you from the back. Not that I've studied you much from the back.
Yeah.
Are you out there handing the trophy to Galatea? And he came back and said, no, that is this gentleman who is the Commodore, the president, they call it in Italy, but the Commodore of the Circolo del Remo, Della Vela Italia. That's the guy there on the left. This from a New York Times article maybe 4 years ago now. That was the guy out there handing the trophy.
That's a great picture.
It is. And we've used that. I believe we've used that before.
Yeah.
And Chris actually thinks Galatea is a Wally Cento 100-footer. Yeah, I believe you're right, Chris. And here, however, is the Mr. Doctor, obviously there on the right, and he is with David Leushen in 2022 at obviously Yacht Club Costa Smeralda when David Leushen won. I think he was the top placing IMA member at the Maxi Rolex Cup. So that's from 2022, and we're celebrating our FOSI for their performances. The inshore coastal portion of the IMA Maxi European Championship began yesterday, actually on Monday the 19th, out of Sorrento. Will run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so they wrap up here in a couple more days. Defending champion Hap Fouth, whom we're celebrating, commented, the Bella team is excited to be back in Italy racing. The regatta draws the best of the best in Maxi yacht classes, and our Maxi Grand Prix class is very impressive and competitive. Conditions look to be brisk and variable, so our week should be filled with excitement.
And as it should be. Yeah.
So I do, as I said to you all on the show on Friday, Stingray and some others have said, well, it can be pretty light there. Yes, it can be light. It can be light anywhere in the Med. Be light anywhere in the world, including in Qingdao for 4 days in a row. But the point is this time of the year in the Bay of Naples, it should be the Gulf of Naples, if you're Italian, it should be okay. It's not, they have a sea breeze. And Yachts, was it Yachting World or Yachts and Yachting ran an article yesterday or maybe this morning about talking to a local guy, an old race officer there, whose name I did not recognize. But, you know, they have a sea breeze. They have a southwesterly sea breeze into the Gulf, and on many days have good racing days in the Gulf of Naples, and hopefully it will, Gordon Smith, it will be a good America's Cup venue. One can only hope. Dogzilla Monster, a.k.a. Stingray, Galatea, was the unsuccessful Scottish challenger, yes, of a different spelling, of the sixth America's Cup in 1886 against the American defender Mayflower. Chris actually asking whether T. Hutch was on Bellamenti, and yes, he was.
Was he?
Yeah, press reports, and from what one hears, he was. John Emmett thinks Naples will be fantastic. I certainly hope so. But yeah, T. Hutch was on that boat. Some Fozy news that actually is sad, quite sad. 8 bells for Pat Healy, who is a Canadian, long time friend. I've knew Pat for 40 plus years. And U.S. Sailing put out 8 bells because Pat, though a Canadian living in Toronto of late, he's an international judge, longtime judge, instructor, coach in Sailing Hall of Fame, Canadian coach, and Canadian Hall of Fame inductee. He died 3 days ago on May 17th. He was a fin sailor, among other classes. He lived up, as I said, in Toronto. I'm not sure why he had the USA on his fin sail, probably a sail he got from an American fin sailor. That is the CN Tower in the background. And Pat was inducted into the Canadian Sailing Hall of Fame and in the U.S. Intercollegiate Sailing Hall of Fame. He coached for a long time at the Naval Academy and was awarded the Campbell Family Award for lifetime service to collegiate sailing in this country. Pat's rules knowledge and training expertise were sought by many. His insight shaped the understanding of the racing rules of all who worked with him. His clear understanding of the rules and his kind, humorous, and spirited manner enlightened and entertained us all as he urged us to get better. This from U.S. Sailing. His knowledge and humor were on display at a recent U.S. Sailing Judge Roundtable called, quote, An Evening with Pat Healy. One judge colleague called Pat, recalled that Pat often asked, how can we make this better for sailors? And
That's a good question to ask.
He was a sailor's sailor, he was a sailor's coach, and he was a sailor's judge. And you don't get too many people in our beloved sport who do all three and do them well. Bravo Zulu, for his long life, he was 4 or 5 years older than I. I think he was born circa 1948. Pat Healy from Canada, 1948 to 2025. May he rest in peace. Okay, if Pat were still alive, he would certainly be agreeing with us, and I've heard from any number of people, by the way, about this situation in and around SoCal and the Olympics. And the latest, it's still pretty quiet. We haven't had any official news, but I can guarantee you that the Crutonic LA politicians and maybe the LA Yacht Club are still at it, trying to get the venue for sailing moved from Long Beach to San Pedro. Long Beach is correct. The Port of LA, which is in San Pedro, is not correct. If you haven't already, please ping the World Sailing CEO, David.Graham at sailing.org, David.Graham at sailing.org, and give him a piece of your mind and tell him that San Pedro is Crutonic, Julia.
I will. And I haven't done it yet.
I've done it. Now, I got a call this morning. From, or had a call. He actually texted, and then he and I chatted, from the new CEO of U.S. Sailing, Charlie Enright.
Yes.
So thank you, Charlie, for pinging me. He had seen Claire Harrington and others at this dinner the other night at New York Yacht Club that we told you about, when New York Yacht Club and World Sailing hosting the mid-year meeting, or this board meeting of World Sailing. And I asked Charlie, who's coming on the show, by the way.
Oh, good.
He called actually to volunteer to come on the show.
Oh, great, because we'd hope to do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So he called and said, I said, well, what about Long Beach? He said, you know, they were very quiet at the dinner. I had the CEO, this guy David Graham, in my office, in fact, up in Bristol a couple days later over the weekend when they were up in Newport after the meetings in New York. But they're very tight-lipped about the whole thing. And I said, well, I have a bit of a bad feeling about all this because of this ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And I just, follow the money. And one hears that the Port of LA has on offer, like they did for SailGP, money to try to get the events in and around the Port of LA. That's the bad news. That's continuing, or so one hears. The good news is I heard from another FOSI, hence in the FOSI Focus segment of the show, another FOSI, that the head of the International Longshore Workers Union.
Longshoremen, yeah.
Longshoremen, thank you. Apparently the unions don't want any part of the Olympics in the Port of LA for the reasons we said.
Understandable.
That they don't want to have to shut the port down every day on and off for a couple of weeks while this Olympic sailing goes on.
Mm-hmm.
I've also heard that there may be a compromise in the works, that they may run the kites and the boards, the windsurfers, in San Pedro and run the rest of the events in Long Beach. I hope that's not the case. It's not correct. Thank you, Alan Long, for emailing David Graham. I hope the rest of you will as well. Blake Middleton has. It's not too late. Put whatever information and opinions you can. If you're in favor of San Pedro, tell them that. Tell us that. Tell them why I'm wrong. But the sailors, including the late, great Pat Healy, I didn't talk to him about it, but he would have said the same thing. He, a veteran of the 84 event and the events leading up to it in Long Beach, which was a terrific Olympics, 84. I wasn't around for the 1932 Olympics, but the lead-up regattas, the Congressional Cup, all the stuff that goes on in Long Beach is terrific. The other piece of good news is that the I told you this on Friday, the LA28 website itself remains, still says, and you would have thought if there was some question, they would have said, well, this is in play or this isn't finalized. Mm-hmm. The LA28 website itself continues to say that the sport of sailing will be on the Belmont Shore, Long Beach, California, which sits along the Pacific Ocean overlooking the waterfront that spans 11 miles of waterways connected to just over 5 miles of sandy beach. That's where it belongs. I hope we get a decision soon. We thought we may have a decision last Friday coming down, but it didn't come, and that also makes you wonder a little bit, Julie, about what's going on.
One piece of the puzzle has to be put in place before.
Well, we'll see. Boards and boats have different requirements for a good competition. Well, you'd think they'd want to sail off the beach in Long Beach, by the way. And Chris actually has just sent an email to Mr. Graham. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for all of you that are doing this, because I guarantee you the majority of the sailors in the world, if not all of them, will want to be together in Long Beach, California for the LA28 Olympic Games.
It's a great venue and promises great fun, too.
Gordon Smith says, Julie, I think you're absolutely right. If Long Beach was a part of the bid, then it will take justification to change it, I would have thought.
Good point.
Totally agree, Gordon. We hope that's happening. And I just want to confirm that Charlie is coming on the show. He's the newly appointed CEO of U.S. Sailing. We had a nice chat this morning. He will be on 2 Tuesdays from now, 2 weeks from today, on Tuesday, the 3rd of June. He would have come on sooner, but Julie, we may have a power outage here next Tuesday.
Yes, we will.
Well, we'll see. They've informed us that they're going to cut the power here from 10 till noon next Tuesday, which is not a problem airing the show at 1 o'clock. The problem is me preparing the show if we don't have any power.
But there's a new thing.
What was the notice? Yeah, I haven't.
It's all day.
All day on Tuesday?
11 to.
Oh, it is? So they've, okay. So that's why I didn't put Charlie in next Tuesday, but he is coming on, God and the internet willing, and our local electric company. This should all be done and dusted by then. But Tuesday, the 3rd of June, Charlie Enright live with us on Sailing Illustrated. So if you have any questions, not only you can do it in the chat, but you can do it ahead of time as well. Julia, Ben Nichols is on, and he's in the chat saying the Olympic classes are getting fed up with venues being selected by money, not sailors. Marseille 24, Qingdao 25. Yeah, they just had not a great regatta there for the Ilka 6s and 7s. It has to be a sailors venue. Decades of experience cannot be wrong. I mean, how can you not highlight that comment, Julia?
Yes.
From Ben Nichols. Terrific point, and as usual, right. Gordon Smith, looking forward to hearing from Charlie. I see in the comments as well. Mm-hmm. And let's move on, speaking of Olympic classes and lasers, to John Emmett's report. And Lily's back there. I think Lily was his camera operator today for his video. The Coaching Corner with John Emmett. Our super Fozy normally he lives in Weymouth, but in the southern part of England usually, but he's a man of the world, moving around a fair bit, but he's at home for this report today.
Wow.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. If you haven't done so already, now is the time to share the feed so people can join us live and drop in their comments. Now, there's been a lot of talking about the America's Cup, but I want to go back more to think about the grassroots part of our sport and the inclusion of sailing. So, gentle reminder, inclusion means youth, women, and parasailing. The three key elements to make sailing is accessible to everybody. Now, all sports have barriers, and this is an issue especially for sailing, one of the biggest being cost, but also accessibility. And I think it's up to the sailing clubs all around the world to try and throw their doors open and look at new ways of getting new people involved in the sport. Personally, I think a pay-for-play model works particularly well, and one of the best ways for completely new people to learn is to get on boats with more experienced sailors. But there's been some good news recently, which, to be honest, has been a long time coming, but I'm so glad to hear it's finally here. And the Inclusion Worlds this year, 2025, has recently been announced by Oman, and it's towards the end of the year, so I guess there's plenty of time to prepare. But I really hope this can be a well-attended championship. Now, one of the things for sailors, coaches, team leaders, etc., we always want to look at getting the dates in the diary early. So I sincerely hope that's something that World Sailing can do in the future. So we have that continuity and that ability to plan. Because logistically, if we book a long time in advance, accommodations, flights, ferries, etc., it makes it much cheaper. And also in terms of getting sponsorship and just the general media side of things, proper planning makes everything a lot easier. Having said that, Hannah Stodel has a very difficult job, and it's probably something that really requires a team rather than one individual. So I would ask anybody who feels they have a bit of time and, more importantly, a lot of energy to try and reach out to Hannah and help. My plan is actually to do an in-depth interview with Hannah, probably in June, but as always, it's very hard to get those schedules to meet, and I will be doing in-depth interviews with lots of people involved, past or present, with parasailing, because the personalities is what drives the sport. And I think that's something that SailGP has done very well with the various rivalries, and it's something which we love to talk about. And if you look at other sports, the way they sell themselves is through storytelling. We did the media recently, Lily and myself, who's acting as my cameraman. Look, no hands. Just to try and tell the story of what's going on and the sailors who are dedicating their lives for the sport. So if you haven't done so already with the parasailing, please do share that, because the more publicity we get out there, the better. Now, probably last year, I was talking about foiling being the future. I think foiling very much is here now, and one of the other things I'd ask you to check out is the new defoil, because bridging that gap between displacement mode and foiling mode is always the difficulty, and there's that wind range. Although having said that, that wind range is getting bigger and bigger. In other words, foiling boats can sail in stronger and stronger winds and actually foil in less and less winds. And I think it's just amazing when you look at the America's Cup, how fast they go in how lighter conditions. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. The Wasp has recently updated its foils and again expanded that. And I think that the defoil is actually aiming a boat which can be sailed in displacement mode as well as foiling. So that's a little bit of a first. So I do think sailing as a sport is on the up, and we can all go and do our little bit. I mean, I'm looking around the boat park. This is completely volunteer run. In fact, you probably saw in the background there's the ladies who are cleaning the club ready for the open day. Here on my left I have the Zoe contender, who's a lovely lady who sadly died of cancer, and it left that legacy behind. In the summer we're very much getting into the season, and this is the perfect time, I think, to have those open days and again throw open the doors of the club to make it super accessible. I'm going to wrap it up here now before my lovely wife gets wet feet, but please do sail fast, sail safe, and keep having fun. Bye for now.
You know, he really is good.
Yeah.
To be able to walk and talk. No, he's not using a script. He's not using a teleprompter. It's like us here in the studio.
Right.
We're not either, but at least I have the slides to guide me, which is my,
Yes.
surrogate.
Well, he has his points of reference because he's walking around. He knows where he's walking. So that.
But even the walking around, he could do that standing still and still, roll off a 2 or 3 or 4 minute.
Oh yes,
He's quite good.
he is.
And Gordon is saying hi to Golden Lily. Cool report. Ted Ryman agrees.
Yes.
And we are looking at this pier there in Weymouth. But he was mentioning during that report the Devotee D foil, I guess. And here's a picture of it. I couldn't get the video. There's a video of it as well. And I'm not sure where this elegant display is. But this is another Fosy. This is our Fosy,
Yes.
super Fosy, really. Luca Devotee, Italian, brilliant sailor, coach, boat builder who lives in Valencia, Spain, longtime and dear friend. Been on the show any number of times.
And it's wonderful.
And is indeed is wonderful. And that is his new single-handed foiler. Luca, of course, having won the silver medal in the fin class in Sydney in 2000. Weren't the Sydney Olympics in 2000? I can't remember all this stuff, Julie. I'm getting too old. too old to remember this stuff. So that's John's report, John Emmett. But before we roll into his outro, we'd like to say and remind all of you, especially you bloody Aussies, that we've been talking since our show number 805 in January to get parasailing reinstated for Brisbane 2032. And the way that's going to happen is if you Aussies put the pressure on the organizing committee in Brisbane to add sailing to the Paralympics as a demonstration event. So please do keep putting that pressure on. Alistair Murray, I know, is leading the charge. Any number of others of you, Pedro Foiling Sailor, a.k.a. Peter Stevenson, have pledged to do the same. So keep that pressure on, please. And we'll keep reminding you at the end of John's reports each Tuesday and Friday. Julia.
Can we forward a email address to do that?
Well, I guess we could all write to Brisbane. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Why didn't we think of that before, Julia? Where have you been? You should have thought of that in January.
I know.
That's a hell of a good idea.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that? Because you're smarter. You went to Stanford. So. John Emmett, get to the front of the fleet. Let's get an email address that we'll all write. As Blake Middleton is saying, get parasailing reinstated. Well, get it as a demonstration event. Then we get it reinstated permanently after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not add, return it, David James is saying.
And
good
that's
point.
a good point to make.
That is a good point, isn't it?
David,
Okay, John Emmett, thank you. Julie, you're going to say one more?
I was just going to say David always has good points.
David? Well, you're just because, come on.
Totally prejudiced.
You're prejudiced because David James went to Stanford. Admit it. Just admit it.
There are many conflagrations of that. His father and Conrad were best friends.
Your late, great ship captain and husband.
Mm-hmm.
Blake Middleton says that Julia he coached at Stanford. I got the Stanford cabal here. I'm surrounded by them. Let's all write to Brisbane. Good idea. Somebody get us that email address for the organizing committee, and we'll do that. We are going to talk about the America's Cup and Orient Express and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli as they seem to be trying to get back, or Luna Rossa's in, I guess. But if you're just joining us, it's a little before 1400 here in San Francisco. Naples has been added to our clock, Julia.
Okay.
Naples actually has replaced Barcelona on our 8 clocks.
As it should.
around the world. Gordon Smith asked me the other day why we don't have Copenhagen in there, but I can only do 8 clocks. So if I get rid of Cape Town, then Ted Ryman will be upset. And besides, we know that Copenhagen is on the same time as Naples, right? Oh, God, it's so much fun, Julia. I am a bloody kid in a candy store.
Yes.
So let's carry on with the show. But before we do that, this week in history, it happened a couple, 3 days ago, actually. But we've been talking about the 1995 America's Cup and the win by Sir Russell Coots, then Russell Coots. Cooter, as we used to call him. That's not a very polite word in Aussie Kiwi.
Isn't?
No, it's not. I won't elaborate.
Don't.
His nickname was Cooter for a while. But we're now going to focus on 1992, and here is your first clue.
Oh, yeah.
Who is that?
Oh, I just can't do it.
That is the late, great Raul Gardini.
Oh, that's right.
Who sadly offed himself after the Cup in 92 in San Diego. They were the first Italian team to get to the match, Compagnia della Vela. And the defender who beat Dennis Conner in the defender trials was
Koch.
Bill Koch of the America Cubed, head of the America Cubed Foundation. And those two teams went at it in the 1992 America's Cup, AC38. Il Mora di Venezia was the name of Mr. Gardini's boat, ITA 25 and America Cubed. I think that, to remind me, was that Defiant? Was that, he built Gardini built 5 boats. The Italians built 5 boats, and Koch built 4 boats. And I think the one they ultimately used was Defiant. Somebody remind me. Ed Worley is saying Paul Kayar did a great job in that challenge. Yes. He was involved.
And shall I ever be known as Cardini?
Kayardini.
Kardini.
Ever since then, yeah. Kayardini. And that was how it went down. And the final race was on the 16th of May, so 4 days ago, in 92. So that was 3 years ago. Hard to believe. USA 23 was the sail number against ITA 25, and they won. That is, the Americans, America Cubed, won 4-1. And see, a pretty close series, even though it was 4-1. The race times were close. And one of them, the second race, their 3 seconds was the delta, was until that race in 2007 in Valencia, which was supposedly only 1 second, that between Team New Zealand and the Ilingi, supposedly a 1 second delta. This was, now I don't think it was a 1 second delta. Actually, I was out there in the water watching. It looked like it was, they made that a little closer in 2007 than it really was, but this was a close race, I guarantee you.
Yes.
And that was Bill Koch and his team in front of the San Diego Yacht Club after they won, after they'd been thrown in the water. This is a more dignified moment with the late, great Buddy Melgus. There on the left, an Olympic medalist who also won the America's Cup. He never won a major offshore race.
But he won 80,000 other ones.
But he was, along with Paul Elfstrom, probably the most celebrated sailor in the modern history, if not the history of our sport, Julia. And there's Dave Dellenbaugh, who was the tactician, who also ended up being the bearded tactician for the ladies, for the Bill Koch team in 1995. We talked about him the other day as well. Green Circle, Green Halo Illustrated, Ryman is calling us now. That's probably true. Buddy Melgus. From up where Blake Middleton, up in Scow Country, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and so on. For extra credit, Julia, who was the helmsman of the Italian team? Well, we just spilled the beans on that. That was your big buddy,
yes,
Kayardini.
Yes.
Paul Kayard, the skipper of Il Moro. And really, he was, man, I was at Gardini's house in Venice with Kayard. We had a meeting there, and I was there representing San Diego Yacht Club, and Paul was treated like, like a
king,
a golden. Yeah, I mean,
I was with him someplace and in Italy, and he just walked, and crowds followed
he's
him.
very well known in Italy and in France.
Yes.
I went through, we were going through the airport in Nice. We were going to a meeting in Monaco or something. I don't know where we were going. I guess to a meeting in Monaco. And Paul and I flew over there and went through the airport in Nice. And I mean, they were all over him.
Mhm.
You know, you recognize he's got that. We always teased him about his 1980s porn star mustache. Chiardini. Good guy, good friend, leader of men and
yes.
women. And
Absolutely.
did the 2000 campaign with him and Dennis's 95 campaign with him when he was our helmsman for 95.
His
So
birthday was just a couple of days ago.
it was indeed. Now for extra credit, Julia, and anybody else in the chat, what was the best sponsor who put the most money? I wonder how many of you know. You'll think it was Chevrolet sponsoring America Cubed or Mont Edison sponsoring Ilmore. It may have been. But what was the best kind of retail brand involved in the 92 Cup? And they did a lot of advertising, which helped really bring the television around in a big way for the Cup.
Prada is the one that's known for the branding. But so
This is before Prada.
I know.
Before Prada was involved in the Cup. But what retail brand? Anybody got it in the chat? I don't see anybody in the chat with it.
What year?
92. Not Citizen Watch. That was a good guess, though. Pepsi was a good guess. Baton Rouge. Pepsi with Dennis. Nope. Citizen Watch. Alex Hayworth. No. They were our sponsor of the Defender trials and then of the Pringles. Close, but not really. Pringles was a sponsor of Pringles is owned by PepsiCo, isn't it? Citizen, Philip Morris, hoping not. Nope. Okay. Do you give up? Julia, do you give up?
I do.
Bill Canfield, nope. Citizen Alan Long is saying, here it is, the number one sponsor in terms of television, not Toyota, that was 95. In terms of coverage, McDonald's, no. Pool cleaner, oh my goodness, look at this. Here it is, you won't believe this.
Because when you're racing for the America's Cup, you've got to travel light. It's the right boat now. Because when it comes to winning, these guys aren't afraid to go a little overboard. It's the right boat now. Because after all, you're pulling for America to win the America's Cup. So join the Silver Bullet in supporting America Cubed and its crew as they race to go all the way. Coors Light and America Cubed.
The Silver Bullet, right now.
Oh, yes.
The right beer, the right boat, right now. It was a great claim. And the reason it was so good was because they were running this commercial, not just on ESPN, the America's Cup coverage, but they were running it on baseball coverage and God knows what else.
Yeah.
And you saw it all over the place. And a lot of people had no idea what the hell is this boat in the America's Cup. And it's got a Jenniker up with Coors Light. They also did, Julia, they did a promotion. It was quite a good promotion where you could win, you could apply and, send in your something or another. Or you go to the store and buy a 6-pack of Coors, and there you could then rip off something and mail it in. This is before email, 92.
Yeah.
Snail mail it in, and there was a drawing, a raffle, and some number of people got, and one in particular, the ultimate winner, got to win a ride on America Cubed in the Defender trials.
Wow.
So it was a
hell of
a promotion.
Yeah, it was.
The light beer BS, better than Pabst, I suppose, David James is saying.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember the commercials. I don't. I had to. Well, I saw it on YouTube, and I said, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Then I did a little research, and they did a hell of a job, bang up job. So, see, nobody else remembered it either.
No.
Okay. Now, honorable mention, Julia, for this day in history. This was sent in by none other than not Mr. Doctor, but Dr. Hamish Ross. Do you recognize that flag?
What comes to my mind is Coast Guard, but that's not.
That's a national flag. Let's see who in the chat
Cuba?
gets it. It is. Well done, Julia. It's Cuba, as JFK would have said. And Hamish reminds us that From the would you like to rethink this history file? Today, the 20th of May, in 1902, Cuba gained its independence from the United States, which had taken control of the island in 1899 after defeating Spain in the Spanish-American War.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of people that are both in Cuba and here in the States that would have loved to just had Cuba as another state.
Yep.
It would be prosperous. It would be like, tell me what, it'd be the Hawaii of the Caribbean.
Yes.
Right?
That would be good.
And the Bacardi Cup could have continued after whenever Fidel kicked them out in 50, what was it? 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. Thank you for that, Hamish Ross, on this day in history.
Yeah. I've always liked that flag.
A coda to this day in history. Let's get into the America's Cup, shall we? And the America's Cup date, as we like to say here. As Steve Atkins is saying, you see what he's saying in the comments?
No.
We sure screwed that up. And JFK would have pronounced it Cuba. Yarvaje is wondering if we're going to make Puerto Rico a state, PR a state. Let's get over to Italia, where we told you on last Friday with the news had come out that Italy would host the Louis Vuitton, which is the title partner again of the 38th America's Cup in the city of Napoli in 2027. 2 years from now, Julia, 2 years from now. And normally the Cup has been 3 years, 4 years, at 2.5 years minimum. And if it changed and it was run in February in Auckland, and then it ended up being run in Europe in 2007 later in the year. I mean, you just, this is a very short turnaround, which only plays into the hands of the defender.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Plays into the hands of the defender. The government of Italy, in conjunction with Team New Zealand and the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, are pleased to announce Italy as the host country and Naples as the host city for the Louis Vuitton 38th America's Cup to be held in the spring and summer, this time of year, still spring, of 2027. Steve Gruber wondering how far ahead ETNZ is on the new class rule. Well, they will have known the venue and they would have done the weather study. They will have been rewriting the class rule, so they know what the class rule is, doing all sorts of design studies at the same time. So it's... this does not bode well for challengers coming in. A 2-year cycle does shorten the spend. It does shorten the time in which a team is having to spend money.
Yes.
The burn rate.
Yes,
doesn't lower the burn rate, but it shortens the burn rate, the burn time, because these teams are spending, tell me what, several $100,000 a month. And then you get to the end and they're spending, millions of dollars a month, literally. So $100 million plus budget, it's tough. Blake Middleton says his vote is still for 2 teams. I assume he means the Italians and the Kiwis. We shall see. Gordon Smith says, oh, Lordy, 2 years of whining about the venue and the defender. Hungarian TV producers, dig me a hole, people. Well, Gordon, we got to keep you happy. If we don't have something to say about the venue that's not positive, it should be in Auckland. It should be in Auckland.
I think it was nice of them to mention the Royal New Zealand Yacht Club.
Well, Yacht Squadron. Well, that was nice of them to mention it. They had to. There would have been even more bitching and moaning from me than there was when we covered this on Friday. Okay, I'm going to replay the video that the America's Cup organizing authority, AC38, issued last Friday. Here we go.
New Zealand are one of the most storied teams in America's Cup history. They lift the trophy 3 times in a row.
Take the boat. There'll be no time. He's gone.
Both these boats are fast. More history is created for the very first time. Luna Rossa win the Pooch Women's America's Cup.
That's a big wave, so I'm going to target 1 here on the heel.
This one is just a little bit special.
We got to pick it up again.
Yeah, Daltz did say that they're like Vikings and they do better away from home, less distractions. He gave that interview to somebody, the New Zealand Herald or somebody the other day. But that's where the Cup is, for better or worse. I think the venue itself is okay. It's just that this should be in the country of the club holding the Cup. Should be in New Zealand. And
maybe we'll give him enough emphasis and courage to win the Cup in Italy.
Well, you mean if the Italians win it?
Yeah.
Well, that would be great. Somebody needs to get it out of the hands of Grant Dalton, because the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, who are supposed to be in charge as the defender trustee, they're clearly not in charge. Okay, now what's the latest news? Well, Stefan Candler from France, who I didn't find his title, but he's the co man in charge, is from the Candler family, who have done several America's Cup challenges over the years. Not very good ones, frankly. The best one was when Don Riley ran it for him. And he put out a statement yesterday. In fact, Richard Gladwell said, "Where'd you find that statement?" And I said, "Well, frankly, I read it in the New Zealand Herald, Richard. Open up your newspaper, because that's where I saw it, at least on the website. We already knew," Stefan Candler said, "we already knew the boats would be AC-75s. We now know where and when the competition will take place. We therefore have acquired, unlike other editions where a blank page had to be handed out." On this is a Google Trans, obviously, in French. "On the strength of this announcement today, we will be able to concretely move," this is tortured language.
Never mind.
"To concretely move forward on the search for funding with our partners, so that a French challenger is present at the oldest international competition and can battle to report this prestigious trophy in our country." So the media can battle to report this press, I guess. You get the gist of it. I don't mean to be critical of the Google Trans or of his. Well, I'm sure it was much better in the original French that I took it off their website. So the French appear to be searching, Julia, for funding.
Yes.
Huh? They don't have funding. I hope they find it. We shall see if they do. But one team that has regained funding, and I think this happened after the announcement of the venue, was Luna Rossa.
Oh, isn't that good?
Pirelli is back.
Yay.
Look at that. And hence this nice shot. And I got this from Richard Gladwell. Yeah. Pirelli is once again, Sail World and Richard reporting, is once again partnering with Luna Rossa team for the 38th America's Cup.
It's about time he won it. I've been on his side for a long time.
You have been. Pirelli is once again partnering with Luna Rossa team for the 38th America's Cup, joining the Italian Challenger as official sponsor and technical partner, supporting the team in developing cutting-edge technological solutions.
Aha.
The new alliance between Luna Rossa and Pirelli will center on virtualization, a methodology fine-tuned by Pirelli in Formula One that helps reduce development times, the use of physical prototypes, and environmental impact. It reduces all those. This approach also allows the sailing team to predict the behavior of materials designed together under the typical loads and stresses of high-performance racing yacht.
Terrific.
So they're back, and that's good. Bodes well. The Italians are fired up. We knew they would be fired up. Daltz said they would be fired up. So here we go. And some other nice pictures of the boat that Sail World that Richard Gladwell ran. And this is a quote from the chairman of Pirelli. "We are delighted to be alongside Luna Rossa once again, and will be there with the passion and dedication that have distinguished this partnership since the beginning. We believe deeply in this project, which strengthens our brand and offers great international visibility, allowing us to convey shared values such as Italian-ness,
yes,
technological challenge, competition, teamwork, and the balance between power and control, said Marco Tronchetti Provera, who is the executive vice chairman. He is the man large and in charge.
That's a very good comment.
Yeah, it's a good quote. Well, they can write good press releases in
Yeah,
Italia. But wait, there's more. As this time, as before, our contribution will not be lacking in terms of technology and research. We will meet the challenges of this edition with the same excitement and involvement as always, above all, doing so in an extraordinary city like Naples, known for its beauty, culture, and atmosphere, which we are certain will help make this edition truly special.
I agree.
Class act from Luna Rosa Prada Pirelli, which continues.
Yep.
Hopefully, Julia, this lady, whom we introduced to everybody on,
yes,
probably not everybody, some of you would have known of her, maybe know her, Giorgia Meloni, who is the Primo Ministro, not Prima, I looked it up again, Primo Ministro, the Prime Minister of Italia, and she is fully supportive of this event. Having said Italy will host the next, she announced it, in fact, before anyone else did, will host the next edition of the America's Cup Sailing Competition 2027. Yada, yada, yada. It will be the first time Italy to host it. Yada, yada. Quote, I am proud to announce that the America's Cup will be contested for the first time in its history in Italia. The Prime Minister said in a statement. So we got an excited Prime Minister. We have what looked to be fairly good weather conditions. And again, that was where they sailed the 1960 Olympics, sailing Olympics, when the Olympics were in Rome, 1960. And it was a light series. I talked anecdotally with the late, great King Constantine, who was a good friend.
Yeah.
Talked to him several times about that series. And it was light, but it was, sailable. Yeah. It was okay. So they have also got, on top of that, they invented pizza, apparently, and they have great pizza. I can attest to that firsthand, having spent quite some number of days, a couple of 3 weeks collectively, in total, in Naples, in Italia, over the years. That does not relieve this outfit from having taken the mantle given by me and us as the worst trustee in Cup history. They have delegated totally, fully to Grant Dalton. He's running the Cup, not the Defenders, not the squadron, completely contrary to the provision of the deed of gift that says the trophy is to be held in trust by the club, not by the team, not controlled by the team, not owned by the team. And this is, follow the money, the worst situation that I have ever seen in my 45 plus years of involvement in the Cup. The Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron is the worst trustee in Cup history. I hope they lose it, Julia. I hope you are right. And yes, Stingray, Bagnola, the site for the bases, or so they said. I'll believe it when I see it, because it's a big reclamation area, big toxic dump fund. What would we call that here in the 70s when they did the big cleanup of toxic waste sites? The super fund to go clean that stuff up. So that's got to happen. I'll bet you if there's only two teams, they'll end up in the Bay of Naples, not around the corner in Bagnola. Is that it?
They're talking about the bases, not the
team bases. Yeah. Bagnola, I think, is how you pronounce that. We checked that out the other day. Yarvahe agrees. Good riddance. RNZYS is on the bottom of the world, so aren't they usually upside down? Mark Holland. Yeah, the super fund. Ed Worley super fund.
Yeah.
Okay. God, we have such smart foesy. We are
Thank
so lucky,
God.
Julia.
Oh, yes.
Huh?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's the America's Cup report. Unless anybody else has some pressing news or some inside scoop, we'll go to Australia, where things are quite a bit more settled in terms of yacht racing and yachting, because in part of this gentleman, our super foesy, Alistair Murray, with his regular is that loud enough? Regular reportage, called Alistair's Awesome Aussie Anecdote. A little different than usual.
Okay.
G'day, Tom, Julia, and all the foesy. I thought I'd have a bit of fun with you today on AAAA, inspired by last week's show, actually, by a few of the comments sent in by some of the Fosey. So I thought this would be a bit of nonsense today, a little bit of fun. I'm not sure if it was, I think it was Steve Groover and Clark Chapin last week, that they were asking in jest, I'm sure, whether AAAA shouldn't in fact be renamed III, as in II Sailor. And I recognised it actually as a dig at my accent, and I'm sure my fellow Australians have come across similar prejudices over the years in having a go at us about the way we talk. In actual fact, I lived in the USA for 6 years, a real highlight of my life. It was a really, really great time. And I was actually one of very few people that I came across that didn't have an accent. I found that America was full of accents, and yet I was asked about mine. Well, I don't have one, for a start. Okay, I do acknowledge that to the American ear, we pronounce A as an I. Every time I say A in America, you hear I. And the other aspect of or the thing that we do with the way we speak is, in Australia we only have 25 letters of the alphabet, it seems. We eliminate the letter R, as in R, to you guys. So like people from Boston, we park the car rather than park the car. Anyway, I had to adapt to living in the USA, and it had its challenges, I can tell you. One of the big challenges with all the A's and I's was my name. So here in Australia, I'm Alistair Murray, and it's very easy to spell. It's Alistair, MURR, because we say double, so I don't think you do that, MURRAY. Well, if I ever tried to spell that in America, I got nowhere. I can tell you I'd be there for half an hour trying to convey it. So I had to adapt. And the way I pronounced and spelt my name in America was Alistair Murray was my name. And I would spell it ALISTAI. I'm not sure if you're hearing the difference. MURRA. It was an absolute nightmare. Actually, it reminds me that I was asked by somebody one day. I'd just been touring in some of the remote states of America, and I was asked if I'd ever seen a bison, and I said, "Of course I've seen a bison. In fact, I see a bison every day. In fact, I wash my hands in one. A bison is a white porcelain thing with a couple of taps. You call them faucets that you wash your hands in. As far as I'm concerned, that's a bison." Hope you enjoy that. And don't get me started, because not only the way we pronounce things, but it's our terminology. Don't get me started on my wife rooting for a football team. You know what I mean. And then Alan Long asked, in a comment I noticed, he asked how we came to be Australians, and I was questioning our history, and he thought it'd be good to get a comment from Jody and Pedro and myself. Well, here's my story. My direct ancestor, my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was a convict, so I'm from convict beginnings. He was deported from England, and his crime was bigamy. And I'm very proud of that, direct descendant from a bigamist, and I've been trying to uphold the family tradition ever since. Thanks, folks. Bit of nonsense today, but that's A for today. See ya. Bye.
With that, I've got to come out on the flags, Julia. This international show here, the flag's behind me.
Yeah.
A bigamist. Is that what he said?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
So it's maybe this is going to be Alistair the bigamist. No, he's not a bigamist.
No, it's
his great something.
Yeah.
You say tomato, I say tomato.
Yeah.
You say bison, I say basin and bison.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I love the Australian accent, if I spend enough time there, I come back with my own.
Well, I just have one more coda. I thought you'd enjoy this, Julia. That is Alistair and his daughter Claire, the Taser tandem. They sail, they race together, and he is adored and loved in Australia and beyond. And I've known him for a long time, and a dear friend, and great to have him on the show
Indeed.
with his regular Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote, the I. The
Yes.
I, Julia.
Yes, I
Well,
agree.
that explains his nickname, Biggie Al. Big Al, yeah. Okay, Julia. Anything else?
No, it just reminds me of. I thought he was going to go into the whole slang, and I love to learn what it is and why they say one word.
Rhyming Cockney.
Yeah, rhyming Cockney. Yeah.
Well, somebody said in the chat, there was a clever comment here. Alistair, this is Gruber. It's only a nightmare because Seppos are croutons.
Yeah.
Do you know the word Seppo?
Yep.
What is it, Julia? Come on.
Well,
You know it, but you don't really remember
that's Americans.
Yes. Why are we Seppos?
I've forgotten.
Septic tank rhymes with yank.
Yank. Oh, that's right.
And they shorten septic tank to Seppo. And
Yeah.
I'm proudly a Seppo.
Yes. Are we all?
Are we all? Well done.
Yes.
A for today. Thank you, Alistair. Thank you very much. Yeah, septic tanks. Yarvahe's quick to assert. Okay, let's give you the wrap on what happened in Qingdao. They had a tough time. John was there with Lily doing a fabulous job on the TV. We watched several episodes, several days of that. And it was the 10th through the 17th, but the first few days, I think there were four consecutive days of no air and one day of thick fog. That's some air, but the fog was too thick and the race committee couldn't run the races. So they finally got some racing in, as we told you on Friday, on day 5. And then they did run the racing the final day with the medal races and so on. We'll give you those results. But here is the wrap video from the ILCA 6 and 7 Worlds in Qingdao. Those were the conditions promised in the brochure.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
They finally had some breeze. So let's look at the winners. And first of all, bravo Zulu. The ILCA 6 winner was Louise. I don't know how to say her name. Cervera. She's French, Julia. You would know the pronunciation better than I. Yeah, that music was a little rough. Sorry, Alan Long. I should have probably turned it down just a bit. But Louise Cervera from France took the ILCA 6, the women's. Well, there's men sailing in it too, I suppose.
Yeah.
Bravo Zulu to her and to the rest of the podium winners and beyond. The top 10 here for you are, where are they?
Was the slide before?
The slide before. There
Yeah.
it is. Okay, so there's the top 10. Louise, and then Agata Barwinska, who was leading when we did the show last Friday, and on down through the list. Charlotte Rose from the U.S. was 8th, and Maxime Jonker from the Netherlands, who's an up-and-comer and good sailor, along with our Fosie's daughter, Matilda Nichols, in 5th.
Oh, good.
And her dad, Ben Nichols,
Yeah.
I believe that's her dad, in the chat. Right, Ben? Are you a proud papa here? I think he is. So that's the ladies. And then the gentlemen, the 7, a lady I guess could sail in the 7, but the ILCA 7 winner was Willem Viersema from the Netherlands. And he's been leading all along. He had a good regatta, and he is a big, tall guy. Look at the,
Yeah, he
not
is.
just on top of the podium, but he's also a big, strong, tall Dutchman.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a great regatta, as did Pavlos Kontitis from the Cyprus, who's a medalist and has been tough in that class for a long time. The Aussie Zach Littlewood has done well, consistently at the top. And Michael Beckett down there from GBR. Look at 3 in a row from GBR. Finley, Elliott, and Michael. 5th, 6th, and 7th. And down through the rest of that list. Now, I have no idea where this photo is from. I don't even know if that photo is from
This year.
the Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
But I saw that photo and I so loved it. And here, here they are on opposite jibes, sailing within what, a foot or two, less than a meter of each other.
Yeah.
Which boat has the right of way, Julia? This one. They're on starboard tack, the wind coming over the starboard or right side. So this lady over here on the left of the slide has got to keep clear. She's not even looking at her, but they're probably not sailing that aggressively. Good spread of countries in the women's top 10, John Collings is saying, and he also has. John, you have a kid involved in that? Are you coaching? Yeah, Clark thinks the water looks too blue in that photo for Qingdao. I don't know, but I just love the photo. I don't know where it's from, but it's obviously women sailing in Ilkas and Bravo Zulu to our photo of the week, Julia.
It's a good one.
Huh?
It's a good one.
Which gets us to the last leg. And Ben Nichols' daughter Eve is aged 21. Blake agrees that is a great Ilka. It's just a great yacht racing pick, isn't it? Okay, our last leg today comes from another Olympic class. We're delighted to have you all with us for the last leg to Gloucester and the Formula Kite Europeans, which took place the 11th through the 19th of May in Turkey. And here is that video.
Racing could not have been more dramatic in the grand final of the 2025 Formula Kite European Championships, and now we have our champions. There were too many passes to count, as the steady 8 knots and smooth turquoise water provided a perfect playing field in Urla. The march through the quarterfinals and semifinals was do or die. Top 2 moved on, other 2 went home. In the men's fleet, Switzerland's Gianandrea Staggiati was the last man standing from the quarterfinals, making it all the way to the grand final. He was joined by Cameron Marimonides of Greece, who made it through the semifinals. Italy's Riccardo Pianosi started the first to 2 wins grand final with 1 win, a reward for dominating the qualifying series. He won the first race, he's the champ. But his antagonist, Max Mader of Singapore, was looking for a fight, waiting all afternoon for the final. It didn't take long for them to clash. In the first rounding of the grand final, all 4 riders dove into the weather mark, shoulder to shoulder, and Pianosi's kite just folded over Mader's. Referees flagged the incident and reviewed drone and camera footage. It was a penalty for Pianosi and a win for Mader, putting them both on match point heading into race 2. Despite a late charge by Staggiati, Mader held off a final gamble by Pianosi on the final downwind leg and floated 2 elegant jibes with the precision of a surgeon to win the Open European Championship, while Pianosi in second was crowned the European champion. Staggiati is the European silver medalist and Marimonides the bronze medalist. Lauriane Nalot of France and Lily Young of Great Britain waited patiently in the grand final for Lisa Caval and Catalina Turienzo, who blitzed the quarter and semifinals together to make it to the finals. Turkey's Darren Atakan had her hands on a ticket to the grand final, running second in the semifinals on the last downwind until a small but painful crash dashed the locals' hopes for a podium finish. Leading into the finals, Nalot had 1 win already and could take the championship in the first race. After a cramped start, she was pacing the fleet all the way around while Young took up a familiar place on her heels. And that's where the Brit pounced. A rough whitewater streak shot from Nalot's foil after the first leeward mark. Something was caught, and she struggled pumping her board. She freed it, but Young made a pass. The 2 were glued to each other on the final run until Nalot pressed Young into the corner, jibed first, and blazed over the top to take her 3rd European title. Young took the silver and Caval the bronze, leaving Turienzo in 4th. That's a wrap for this European Championship. The racing could not have been closer, the weather was stunning, and the first senior championship of this Olympic cycle proved that the new kite and foil designs, new rules, and the same crazy drive from the riders is producing the best racing in the world.
It's crazy to see them match racing in kites so close. I mean, obviously there's some match racing, but we've seen that before, but to see it so close.
Yeah.
And the idea that, you know, when we got umpiring, when I got that going in '88 at Congressional Cup, that umpiring would be used everywhere now.
Yeah.
Olympics.
Yeah.
Big boat, you know, big boat racing in professional sailing.
Yeah.
In the America's Cup, of course, we knew that would happen. And in kites in Turkey, umpires, the Olympics in Marseille, umpires for the kites. I mean, you could never imagine it.
Oh.
But great stuff. It looks like a great venue too.
Yeah, they were.
Have you been to Turkey?
Yes, but not for a very long time.
Well, looks good.
I was just for days.
Clark Chapin says, "Yep, move them to their own sport that can include winter foiling, etc. Give them their own medals and return 1 or 2 medals to real sailing." I wonder what Gordon Smith has to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you pass with kites stretching out like that? Ed Worley is asking. Yeah.
It's all very aggressive stuff.
Well, it's also scary stuff.
Yeah.
I think this is it for kites on strings. I think you're going to see wing foils, you know, the stuff we see now out in front here. I mean, kiting's almost done here in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And it's wing foils. We'll see that going.
I'm just surprised how expensive it is.
Well, these kites are, you know, but they have, you know, they've downsized the kites because everybody was getting, you know, they're putting big butts on themselves, big thighs, big butts.
Yeah.
And that's to counteract the kite.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait till you see kite boarding, kite boating. Oh, that's different than kite boarding. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's the European Championships that just wrapped here a couple of days ago, yesterday actually, in Turkey. A nice video. I like the video. And I like the commentary. I like the guy who was doing, I don't know who he was, but doing a little voiceover, which, Julia, gets us to your favorite segment, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Mm-hmm. And man, we have some jokes today. They were coming in over the door, under the door.
Oh, good.
As I've said before, we had a bunch. Now, this first one, I think I found that somewhere online. But have you been watching these commercials lately? I didn't have time to find it. Maybe I'll put it in Friday's show. Maybe I won't. There's these commercials now for bespoke dog food, and I'm not in cat food, not kibbles and not this, but I mean food that looks every bit as good as humans eat.
Right.
And of course, they're promoting for all these people who are dinks, dual income, no kids, but they've all got pets. I mean, it's like here in the marina. There aren't any kids in the marina, but everybody's got a dog except you and except me.
Yeah.
We should have 2 dogs, Julia, sitting here, right here in the studio with us. But now they're feeding them basically human food.
Yes, and why shouldn't they?
Well, I suppose not.
It's the farmer's dog.
Well, it's that, and it's just astonishing. In fact, this one commercial, the guy is feeding his dog, and he out of the fridge, he's preparing dinner for him and his girlfriend or this date who's over, and he's preparing the dinner, and he's chopping up the veggies for the salad or whatever he's doing. And he says, "Oh, it's time to feed the dog," and he pulls some food out of the fridge, and she says, "Oh, is that for us?" And he says, "No, that I'm paraphrasing, but is that no? It's for the dog, and it's it's this
dog food
exactly." Yeah. And she sort of rolls her eyes and is critical, and he kicks her out. Yeah, and then he's sitting on the floor with the dog, saying, "I didn't like her anyway."
I told you,
yeah, something like that. So that's what engendered this cartoon. What do you want for supper? Savory beef, mouth-watering salmon, or luscious chicken? I'll have the mouth-watering salmon. I was talking to the dog. Julia.
Yes, I know.
That's a good one, though, isn't it?
It is.
This one, a little political commentary, since we talked about this on the Friday show, rather. And Ryman sent this, and when Ryman sends something clean, I have to run it. I don't think that needs any explanation, does it? from Ted Ryman. Do you like that, Julia?
Yeah.
It's a good cartoon, don't you think?
Yes.
He's obviously Qatari.
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Oh, yes. You didn't get it at first.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, here's another one. See if you get this one. Well, after just a week at home, I'll come up with a comprehensive list on how to do things more efficiently around here, honey. The real reason many men don't live long after retiring.
Yes.
That's from Greg Phillips, and another clean one. When Greg sends one that's clean, you know,
Yeah.
you gotta love it. Thanks, Greg Phillips, for that one. Now this one, not so clean. I take it you haven't had sex for a while.
That is funny.
Does that get a finger wag?
No.
Greg Phillips sent that, huh? No finger wag.
No finger wag. It's absolutely true.
Sperm. The tadpoles are changing into frogs. I had to look at it for a minute or two, or not a minute, but for a few seconds before I got it. That was pretty good, Greg Phillips. Thank you. Okay, Julia, they're getting a little spicier here. Wow, you are drunk. Oh, yeah? How can you tell? Because you live next door.
That's also good.
That's
good.
from Peter Stevenson.
Good heavens.
He sent in, or some, spicy. I wouldn't call it racy, but, it was clever.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll get back to sailing. We'll wrap this up with sailing. Ed Worley sent this one. I'm new to sailing, but I've heard it calls for a lot of hiking.
That's where she's wearing her hiking boots.
Hiking boots, and she's got her walking stick, and she's ready to go hiking. Stress is caused by not sailing enough.
That could well be true.
I think that is a good claim. That's probably true. Ed Worley and Greg Phillips both sent that in. They must be watching the same joke site. Mm-hmm. And then finally, Julia, this one from beloved daughter Meg, who thought this was clever. Ha, look at those goofy people dragging around a little car with a bigger one. Clean, simple, sailing related, Julia.
Yes, indeed.
That gets us to the finish line, thank goodness. We're only an hour and 41 minutes, so it's pretty good, Julia. Twice in a row, we've been under 2 hours here. Mm-hmm. And you like to say?
Yes, do not miss the opportunity to like, follow, and share.
Indeed. Comments are welcome. Even in replay, we leave it open. For those of you watching, a lot of you do watch in replay. Probably over 1,000 of you watch in replay, in fact.
Yeah.
Which is every single one of you is appreciated, especially those who give us $1 or $2 or more a month. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Become a patron, and we appreciate your support, whether via Patreon or otherwise. Thanks indeed. And THANKYOU, thank you for those of you who gave us audio, video, and images for today's show, or let us use yours off your website. Clark Chapin says he loved the sock on the lamp of that joke. Meg wins. Blake Middleton liked Meg's joke. Well, it was clean.
Yes.
Fritz Mueller, thanks to you. Thanks to everybody. Julia, final thoughts? No,
it's always good to be inspired at the end of this. Mostly by the Fosey.
Yeah, by the Fosey. One final question. We have a big holiday weekend coming up this weekend in the States. Mm-hmm. Our Memorial Day weekend. Mm-hmm. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Some people, it doesn't start till Memorial Day is Monday, but some people like to get a head start and leave on Thursday night, and take Friday off. Shall we take Friday off, or shall we do a show?
We may not have any electricity.
No, that's at 1 a.m. That one. That outage is in the middle of the night.
That time has changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm planning to do a show on Friday.
Okay.
Okay. Are you going anywhere?
No.
I'm not planning to go anywhere. We'll have a chilled weekend around here.
Okay.
We'll come up, see you. Maybe you should come down for a Sunday dinner or a Memorial Day dinner.
Why not?
Would you like to do that?
Sure.
I have some ribs in the freezer.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll do a show on Friday. You heard it from Atkins is saying, take it off. Commodore, you're too kind. We're going to be around here. And if we took it off, we'd probably get into some kind of trouble. So We won't. We'll be live as usual at 1300 Pacific on Friday, this coming Friday, and hope the rest of you do have a great rest of your week wherever in the world you are. And in the meantime, go sailing, and if you can, sail safe and have fun. Ciao for now. Couldn't help myself.